You are listening to the Wildlife Photography Podcast with Rob Reed and Josh Galicki, bringing together the love of nature and photography. Episode 33, The Shetland Experience with a Special Guest. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Wildlife Photography Podcast with me, Rob Reed, and my co-host Josh Galicki. Hey Josh, how's it going?
Hey Rob, doing well.
And today we've also got, we've been trying to arrange this for ages, but we finally managed it. We have Rebecca Nason with us. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello, really pleased to join you guys.
Yeah, it's really good to get you on. Actually, after all this time, I said we've been trying to organise this for months. Well, ever since we got back from Shetland, actually, which we were just saying before we came on air, will be 2 years ago in the summer. So it just goes to show you how long, we've been talking about doing this episode. Because, as I think people know from if they've listened to previous episodes, that Josh and I went to Shetland. Was both for the first time actually 2 years ago in June, a couple of weeks apart, unfortunately, so we weren't there together. But and we both had the most amazing time. And of course, if people don't know, Rebecca is one part of and runs the NOS boat out of Lerwick. So why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, Rebecca, what you do and where you've come from and how you ended up on Shetland?
Sure. Okay, I'll try and narrow it down to a few sentences.
Well, you can take as long as you like.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like long form, so you're okay. We've got time.
Well, the first time I set foot on Shetland myself was in 2003, when I took a contract as assistant warden and seabird officer on Faroe Isle. And Faroe Isle had been a place that had been banded around pubs and in the sort of birding community and birding friends that I had at that time for years.
It was part of birding folklore, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a place of legends, and I was just delighted to get the job there. So I landed in March 2023. I landed on Faroe Isle, and I was there I came off in the winter, but I basically had the contract for 2 years. And it was just the most incredible experience ever as a conservationist and as a sort of active birder at that time, and bird photographer I was then too. It was like a dream job really, and to be seabird officer and surrounded by incredible wildlife, all from March basically, with the spring migration, and then all through the summer doing seabird work, and then the autumn with staggering autumn migration that these islands get. I fell in love with the place completely, and I met Phil there as well, who came over one autumn as a bird watcher. He was a firefighter at that time, but came over to spend a couple of weeks there, and we got together soon after that, and we came up to Shetland then at least twice a year for a decade. And it was costing a lot of money, sometimes ridiculous amount of money really, just to come up for these little trips. And we decided in the end, it had grown then, not just Faroe Isle, but Shetland mainland as well, and some of the islands. And we thought, why don't we just move here and live here? It'd be easier. And the more that we got out of Shetland and the lifestyle up here, the less keen we were to return back to the flatlands of East Anglia and the limited, 2.5 hours from the coast and very limited bird life really. We moved up here, I think 11 years ago now. And we took ecology jobs and different work, and then we decided that there was a niche in the market when one company had closed, and we thought, Phil decided to go from fire to water, and he had done quite a lot of work on rescue boats, and we're both passionate ornithologists and photographers, so we set up Shetland Seabird Tours, the NOS boat, 10 years ago. So we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. Yeah. Wow. And it's gone from strength to strength really. Year after year we've very dedicated to it, and it's been fantastic. We had one small boat for the first 2 years, and then we bought a new boat in 2018, which is fantastic, sort of bespoke wildlife watching boat with comfortable seats and a nice outback decking area for sort of 360-degree panoramic photography opportunities. And Yeah, we run from April to September, and we run 3 trips a day from Lerwick Harbour out to Noss National Nature Reserve, which is just an incredible. It's kind of one of Europe's finest wildlife spectacles.
Well, we'll get onto that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we do, and we've expanded our trips. We do more trips a day now. We do early bird morning trips for photographers as well, leaving at 5:30 in the morning a couple of days a week, and a lot of bespoke photography tours as well, bringing in photographers like yourselves from all over the world to share the experience of Shetland and its marine wildlife.
Yeah. So for you, Rebecca, it was the love of birds that came first, wasn't it? Right before the photography, and then the photography developed from there. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. I grew up in a family of naturalists. My grandparents were bird watchers, and my dad was a very keen bird watcher. So it was always in the family, and all our family holidays were always orientated around birds, whether it was at home or abroad. And I guess I was probably about 11 or 12 when I started taking my dad's kind of nicking his Nikon camera and going out and trying to get some shots with it, especially on holidays. I remember one holiday in particular to Florida where there was such incredible close-up birds to try and photograph. I remember photographing I think a green heron or green-backed heron, what's the name, with his camera, and I think that kind of started the bug really. And it was kind of, I guess, a hobby, really a keen hobby until the Faroe Isle days, I guess, when suddenly I realised I was really, really enjoying this photography, and I loved getting my work in print, which I was starting to do for rare birds, and I like the kind of paparazzi style, rare bird photography as well as more artistic work that I'd do on my own. So it kind of started there, and then living on Shetland, you're surrounded by so many photographic opportunities every day.
Because when I think of your work, I always think of, that sort of really artistic, the high key, lots of reflections and that sort of thing.
The
those
harbor stuff
and
is great.
And using the colours of the boats and exactly, in the harbours, and that's what I think of when I think of your work. What do you think influenced that in the early days?
I've always loved those. I don't know whether it's because generally my life is quite full and messy, but there's something about creating something clean and simple and artistic which is greatly satisfying to me. So I've always loved the more minimalist style photography, and I think living in Lerwick for the last 11 years, and having a young child as well, I couldn't go maybe out into the hills like I used to do for the 10 years before that. At least, I'd go just, I'd have a flask of coffee and I'd have my backpack of camera gear and I'd disappear into the hills for all day and be out till late at night. But obviously, you have these responsibilities suddenly, and those options weren't available. So, so I started to do things which were more backyard stuff, I guess you'd call it, things that were more easy for me to access. And certainly being in Britain's northernmost harbour, very busy harbour, and incredible selection of colourful boats and things, and a lot of sea ducks and other seabirds that share the kind of coastline here with us, that I really managed to start to enjoy deliberately going out and trying to get those urban shots. I
think it might be worth sort of just describing to people, where Shetland is and its importance, as a bird breeding site in particular, and a migratory stop-off point. Yeah.
So Shetland is a kind of archipelago. I don't know, is that how you say it?
Archipelago.
Archipelago.
It's a group of islands.
It's gone that route. It's a group of islands, over 100 islands, but I think there's maybe only a dozen or so that are actually inhabited. And they are basically sandwiched between Scotland and Scandinavia. So we're right out in the middle of the North Sea and the Atlantic. If you carry on directly north of here, you'd end up probably Iceland, and then the Arctic. So we are in a quite a isolated but very interesting position geographically. And in the spring, on strong westerly wind, well, in the spring we get migration from Europe, continental Europe, to Scandinavia and back again. So a huge number of common birds, common migrants, filter up to Scandinavia to breed and then head south for the winter and vice versa. So that's the kind of main migration. And then the bit and so you get in the summer, you get because of our being right at the northern fringes of Europe as well, it's kind of like the last port of call basically for a huge number of seabirds that breed on these islands. So you get the seabirds, you get the migration, and then you get the spring and autumn migration. So on very strong westerly winds, which are my favoured winds, you will get an array of birds from America that literally get blown across the Atlantic. And
that's what surprised me the most, Rebecca, when I was there. Like, I always think of Shetland as, gannets and puffins and whatnot, but the strays that show up there, you were even talking in your backyard, I think you had a yellow warbler there, which kind of blew my mind. And even some of the stuff that washes up in the harbor from like New York, you were showing me, it's wild. And you get all these rare birds there.
It is. I think that's what makes it. I think once you've had a taste of that, where you can go outside every day and there's always something different. And especially in spring and autumn migration, you go out and you really don't know what you're going to, you really don't know what you're going to find. It's I love that. I love that kind of surprise element that there might be on strong westerly winds, an incredible American warbler turn up in your back garden, or really strong easterly winds. There might be a Siberian ruby throat from China turn up down the road in a croft. It's just it's amazing, I don't think there isn't really a better place. It's the Mecca in Britain for migratory birds. They have kind of a similar I guess parallel migration down in kind of off the Cornish coast, certainly in the autumn migration they do, and they have good seabirds and stuff, but nothing quite beats the Northern Isles, I don't think.
No, I don't think it does. I mean, no. I know that you and Phil are quite the bird listers, and you like to keep lists. And to put it into perspective, before I ask you how many, because I'm sure you've got the answer to this, to put the answer into perspective. On mainland Britain, I think if most people try and see 200 species in a year, and if you do that, you're doing pretty well. How many different species have you got on your Shetland list? Do you know offhand, or have you got a rough idea?
Yeah, I've got a rough idea. It's about 380 on my Shetland list,
and
480 for Britain.
Wow.
Yeah, so roughly 100 apart. Yeah.
So that just goes to demonstrate, I think, what you were saying about, the this sort of mix of migrants and vagrants and resident birds, because obviously there are some resident birds on Shetland as well, but it's the real mix of things that are going on. It being this sort of stop off point, in the middle of the ocean, basically.
Yeah,
which it is. I mean, for anybody who wants to go to Shetland, I mean, the main way most people get there is by the ferry, isn't it? From Aberdeen, I would say, which is an overnight thing. It's what, 250 miles, is it? Between
I think it's between 250, 300 miles. So then, the generally, certainly for if you're based in mainland Britain, then to travel by Northlink ferry from Aberdeen, which goes on a daily basis. So it's very regular, very consistent, good quality accommodation on board. Generally, obviously in the winter it has some uncomfortable rides, but generally it's a very stable, comfortable vessel, and that goes every night. And you can take cars on as well. So you can have a car and a cabin, and it can be I wouldn't say luxurious, but comfortable experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we did when we came over. Obviously, Jennifer and I came over, and we had a dog-friendly cabin, so we could have Sky in with us as well. Brought the car. It was so easy, and it's just an overnight. It's just an overnight trip.
It's just,
and
that's
you're
the
there in
lovely
the
thing about it as well, is that it is an overnight trip. So it's not like you feel that you're wasting time or wasting a day not being able to do anything, because it goes early evening, either at a 5 o'clock or a 7 o'clock sailing. That's based on whether it goes via Kirkwall or not, and the Orkney Islands, which are obviously very close to Shetland. So if it goes to Orkney, Kirkwall, then it goes at 5 o'clock in the evening, leaves a bit earlier.
We caught the
when
one
you
that
got-
stopped at Kirkwall, yeah.
Yeah, so that stops off around midnight around in Kirkwall.
That's right,
And if you want to go to Orkney, then that's when you get off. But if you're staying on Shetland, you just maybe get woken up by the chains and that kind of people leaving, and then and taking their cars or vessel lorries and stuff get unloaded, and then it carries on to Shetland, and you arrive about 7:30 in the morning. So it's very good.
Nice.
It's very good.
So we were knocking on your door about 7:30, weren't we?
Yeah, most people
Something
do.
like
That's right.
We flew in, and it didn't take long. We flew from Aberdeen, and I think it was about an hour or so, maybe even a little less than that. Interesting enough, when we flew in, there was a Peter Gabriel concert, I think in Glasgow the night before. So everybody who went to this Peter Gabriel concert from Shetland, they were on our plane. So we had long conversations on how Phil Collins, when he took the helm, and what the best Genesis album was in the 70s. So that was actually a lot of fun. I do remember that. Everybody was so, and I have to say one thing about Shetland in general, the people, the nicest people I've ever met. I mean, Scottish people in general, I think, are very nice. Shetland is even a step ahead of that. I mean, just so welcoming. Everybody was fantastic.
Yeah, you definitely get that sense. There's a big sense of community here, that's for sure. And people are very proud of where they live as well, very proud of their heritage. And generally, there's a, it's more unusual. Like if you're walking down the street, it's more unusual for somebody to not say hello to you. And even driving, people are always putting their hands up, very polite, and everyone, it's a very,
and everybody knows each other as well, don't they? Or a lot of people do.
And if you don't know somebody, then they definitely, then they're certainly related to somebody that you do know. Oh, there's always somebody. It's quite, it's everybody knows something about you. True, it's not a place to come and hide.
But your flight got delayed, didn't it, Josh, because of fog? That's the only problem.
Yeah, actually, we initially were going to fly from Glasgow, and we took off, and then we had to turn around because of the fog. And then we took a van to Aberdeen that night, and then we flew from Aberdeen the next day, which I was able to see also they have a big bocce competition there, and a field and a scoreboard. It was kind of fun. So I watched that in the evening and had some beers. It was great. It really was.
You soaked up some Aberdeen culture.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting culturally. When we were in Shetland, I felt it was just as much Scandinavian as it was Scottish in terms of the feel, at least maybe more so in Unst, which was the northernmost island that we shot in. It very much had like a Nordic feel to me in terms of just the architecture and some of the names and whatnot. So it's kind of a mix between, I think, the UK and Scandinavia. At least that was my impression.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the feel of living here. That it doesn't feel like you don't feel like you're anything to do. To be honest, anything to do with Scotland. It feels like its own. I mean, it feels like it's its own entity, and it really embraces its Nordic traditions. And it's a Nordic path.
It's got such an influence, hasn't it, from that side of the the sea. Yeah, definitely.
And you can really see that in everyday life. There's a lot of Scandinavian influence, and certain parts of Shetland certainly geographically look really like parts of the west coast of Norway or Sweden. It's just and I mean there is quite a large percentage of Shetlanders that are from Viking heritage and Nordic heritage. So yeah, I must say as well. So you like you were saying, Josh, obviously you flew to Shetland. So obviously if you don't get the Northlink boat, which I guess for a lot of people would involve driving or getting a train up to Aberdeen to catch that Northlink ferry, then you've obviously got the options of flying, and you've got if you can get to basically any of the Scottish airports, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Inverness, but the other three, mainly Glasgow, Aberdeen and Edinburgh, actually they do daily flights over to Shetland. So, and they just take an hour, like you say, just over an hour. So Yeah,
And
and
they
they're
closed
not
the
so.
road, I remember, Rebecca. Isn't there a road that they have to close for the plane to come down? I remember.
Yeah, that's right. The main airport on Shetland, Sunbury Airport. There is a road that goes across the runway, so they do have to cordon it off every time a plane lands.
But the good news is, when you come out of the airport, you're straight onto the puffins.
Oh, it's
You
right
go at the
there.
right time of the year, anyway.
And it is stunning. Is it Sunborough Head? Is the
Sunborough
name,
Head,
I think?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man, that was amazing. That was
That's a
amazing.
beautiful location, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one. I think
Yeah.
that's the first place we went actually when we arrived was Sunborough Head, and of course we just parked up, and then you just walk up, to the top of the hill, and it's just literally you look over the edge of the path, and there they are. I mean, it wasn't. We came early June, didn't we? So we were a bit early in the breeding season, so there weren't the numbers there that there would have been. I think, Josh, when you went a couple of weeks later,
We had good numbers.
yeah, there was still plenty to photograph, but they weren't doing the feeding the young thing with the with the sand eels in the bill and all that classic stuff. But if you want to get close to them, yeah, Sunborough is very accessible, very easy, because you can just drive straight up, park the car, and literally it's yards from the car.
And what's amazing from a photography standpoint that I thought was really interesting, I got a few shots that I really thought were memorable there, the foliage. So if you shoot down in some of those areas, it almost has like a jungle-like feel to it. Like some of the, I'm not sure exactly what the plants are, but I got some shots. They reminded me of like a Henry Rousseau painting. It was
through the
just very,
thrift, probably. Yeah.
Oh, it was
Just seeping.
stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can get them with all the green foliage. Those are some of my favorite shots there. And we had strong wind. So we had skuas coming in, chasing the puffins. We had a lot of action sequences, and the fulmars, there's so much fun to shoot backlit with their wind. I mean, yeah, I mean, you could just spend all day there. I think for that Shetland trip, we were there just over a week. I think I had 45,000 images when I came back. 45,000. The culling was hell. It was hell, but it was totally worth it. Well, I've only shot that much in the
30
Falklands.
frames a second or something, is it? 30,
Yeah,
well, that's what it does
R3.
for you.
Yeah, and it just goes to show the shooting quality there and all the opportunities that you have. The only thing that ever rivaled it for me from a bird standpoint were the Falklands, which is a similar situation.
Yeah, it
just on
is a
the
similar
opposite side of the globe.
situation. Yeah, not that I've been, but I think that's the thing actually. When you go to Nos, obviously, and you very kindly took us a couple of times, Rebecca, out on the boat. When I first turned up, I'll ask you to describe it to people in a minute, because you'll do a way better job than I could ever do. But I remember saying to you, I've just got to stand back for 10 minutes and just take this in, because it's so overwhelming, the number of birds and the size of the place and the whole enormity of the thing, that you've got to calibrate yourself to it before you can really sort of concentrate and because you can't do everything. So you just have to sort of calibrate your mind to it before you can get in and decide actually what you want to photograph, because it's like a kid going into a sweet shop. I mean, which sweet do I have? I want them all, but I know if I eat them all, I'm going to be sick. And it was very much like that when you first experienced this. And we were so lucky that you took us back a second time. So, and that's what I would advise people to do actually with something like Nos, is not just to do it once, do it at least twice, because you're just not, you need to realize what you're dealing with, I think, when you first turn up there, and the whole experience is so overwhelming initially that to go back a second time would you're going to get so much more out of it, I think, because you know what to expect. But describe to people, I guess, this whole sort of atmosphere of the place and the number of birds and
so like you were saying, really, there is like this sort of sense overload that happens when you first arrive at a place.
That's a better way of putting it. I told you did a better job than me.
I'm not sure. It's kind of like a place where all your senses, the sight, the smell, I mean, the sound, it's just overwhelming, really. So I've always said, obviously our daily scheduled trips are not photographic trips, you can take photographs on them, and we very much encourage people, whether they've got iPhones or professional gear, but they're wildlife tours where Phil gives a live commentary as a naturalist throughout the whole experience, and it's about
which is excellent, by the way. If he's listening,
I'll tell him. And he does his live commentary, and so I would always suggest, certainly for photographers, that to go at least just go once on maybe even just a normal or regular scheduled wildlife boat tour to Nos with us, so that you get an idea of what's actually involved for the first time, and then go out on a bespoke photographic one when you've got an idea, and you can kind of home in on your favorite bits, all the bits that you think might work best for your photography. So when you get to Nos, it takes about maybe 20 minutes to actually get, half an hour to get to the cliffs. You go into some arches and caves on the way, really stunning places, and there's a Stevenson lighthouse that you go past, and you go past, actually when you first leave Lerwick Harbour, you go past where the Shetland series was filmed with Jimmy Perez in the Lodbridge down in the harbour. So there's lots of little things, lots of different things that you look at, and then, but the main spectacle of the kind of like awe-inspiring sight is when you turn a corner and are faced with this 181 meter cliff, and this is a incredible sandstone cliff which is incredibly pitted, so it looks like a honeycomb cliff. It's visually incredibly beautiful, and then so you've got this beautiful sandstone, and then you've got this huge array of seabirds in the summer months. So there's over 20,000 breeding gannets from April to kind of September, really, and they all breed in amongst the crevices and cracks of this pitted sandstone. And you've also got huge numbers of auks. You've got the puffins. They're a bit like it's like a seabird sandwich, really. You've got more, the puffins are often on the water, but when they're on land, they're often near the top. So you've got this kind of the puffins at the top, and then you've got the gannets all over, and then near the bottom, you've got the razorbills, the kittiwakes, the guillemots, filling these ledges, and it's just incredible. So Phil takes you close, but not too close to the cliffs, but certainly perfect for sort of 300mm lenses plus, and it's just he'll take you through. There's all manner of things to look at and kind of experience while you're there, and then he does a kind of thing that we started doing, which was a unique experience that we started with our business, giving these the diving gannet experience, where
there's nothing like that in the world. Nothing like that in the world. I mean, I've been to seabird colonies in North America. I've been on boat trips in Alaska. I've been to a bunch of spots. When it comes from a photography standpoint, the Nos boat it's unparalleled. It's unparalleled. And you see images all over the world from your Nos boat. I was just in San Francisco at the California Academy of Sciences. There's a shot right from the Nos boat. Yeah. Wildlife Photographer of the Year, French, all over the place. I've seen images. There's nothing like it. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to say that it is boss. I mean,
it's great to know, and it's lovely that so many people have come and really been able to utilize that opportunity, and it's fantastic, and it's certainly very satisfying to see these images appearing all over the world in different competitions, and with different photographic eyes as well, different takes on the
it's just
same
so unique
thing.
Isn't it? I mean, when you look at those sandstone ledges in that's where when people think of this and they think of all those lovely textures and curves and shapes with the gannets sitting on them and courting and nesting, that is where they're taken. The majority of the things that I've seen, because it's just it's so beautiful, it adds such an atmosphere to it that it's an unparalleled place. And as you say, you'll never ever forget that experience with them close when they come in diving. For
their wings were hitting my face. I mean, that's the first time ever I had a gannet wing hit my face. I mean, some of my favorite images were like 24mm. It was and to see them just dive right in front of you. I mean, it's such a rush. And like you said, Rob, too, I mean, we did the same thing. We put our cameras down and we stepped back just to take it in. Honestly, it's more about the experience, but also the photographic opportunities are absolutely second to none. I mean, I took an image on the boat with Phil. It won in Bird Photographer of the Year this past year. It was a conservation image of a gannet hanging
that gannet,
by the
hanging gannet,
fishing line.
Yeah.
Kurum took that same shot, a different composition. He won in Nature's Best. And, so it's just, there's just so many opportunities, and so many people have come to me and they've said, where did you take that picture? And, and I explain, the boat, and of course the underwater stuff that we got too. Everyone is like, how did you do that? I'm like, well, it's quite complicated. It's almost like a video game in a way, with the pole and the trigger to to set the camera off and how it's set up.
Yeah, everybody listening to this probably has seen the underwater gannet shot, and this is where it's done. This is where it was developed. Off the cliffs of Knoss, because the water is so clear, isn't it?
It's incredibly clear. It's beautiful, pristine water, really. And the summer months, it's just perfect for underwater photography. And we really started to develop early on with a good friend, Richard Chucksmith, underwater photographer, these underwater gannets. We we do topside and underwater bespoke tours, but the underwater one, that's developed in kind of two strains, I guess. One is people that are happy, photographers that are happy to get in the water and do, maybe actually some are divers or choose to snorkel to take their shots with their own underwater gear. And then we have the topside stuff, which Richard developed using underwater gear, but on a pole, which is a much you don't get wet doing it that way. It's a little bit more hit and miss with your imagery, because you're not, you're setting it up and you're regularly checking it, but you're not necessarily seeing exactly what you're taking. It's a little bit more in the dark kind of shooting. Obviously it's quite different in the water itself. So those are the two sort of types of photography that we've been we've been doing and encouraging, and the imagery that's been coming out of that has been just gorgeous. And obviously your fantastic shots, Josh, that you got, it's lovely to see them getting awarded in this way, and it's not just what I love about it, it's not just the underwater, and it's not just the artistry type images that you can get from the kind of pitted sandstone cliffs, like you say, Rob, that you're probably not finding anywhere else, certainly not in Britain.
Anywhere else.
No, I mean, they're generally on sort of cliffs with grass or just guano covered rocks, but to have these this is a very different material that these seabirds are on. But also, like you say, Josh, with your imagery, also very current images, and they're not necessarily beautiful images. They're images which are hard-hitting, environmental, photojournalist type imagery that you can also achieve.
There's quite a conservation story there, especially with the avian flu, which I think was in 2022. It might have been the year before, and you start to see the recovery in some of the birds and the darker eyes. So there's a story there too.
There really is. We were kind of, I guess, on the cutting edge of watching that unfold, the bird flu, and touch wood, thankfully it moved through the seabirds fairly quickly. Just that year, I think it had been 2021 with great skewers. They were hit hard then, and then 22 with the gannets and the great skewers, and they were hit. I think we lost maybe 14 or 18% of the gannets at Knoss in 2022, but they have made a good comeback. They don't seem to be. They certainly aren't affected by bird flu anymore. The last two seasons have been very good for all the seabirds.
Did the eyes actually clear up? Because obviously when we were there, a lot of them had these sort of almost demonic looking sort of black eyes where they'd recovered from. They're the ones that actually survived it and recovered. And this was like a sort of after effect of that. Did they actually clear those eyes, or?
No, as far as we know, that they don't clear. So there's still lots of gannets.
The pigmentation change is permanent.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it may be like some kind of sort of blown. I don't know what you'd call it. A bit like blood vessels or something. Something's gone in the eye where there's no. I don't think there's any. They haven't found that any of them have recovered from that.
It just looked very strange, and I remember looking at some of the pictures that I took there. And there were birds that were partially gone. The eyes were partially gone. They were, they weren't completely black. And I just wondered whether, well, maybe that's them recovering. I just didn't, I don't know what the.
I guess it doesn't hurt their vision.
Sorry, John.
They still can see. It seems like
When we first started seeing birds with the black eyes, during that awful year, you know, we thought that there was no chance that they were going to recover. It was just a hideous thing to see these beautiful blue eyes going this deep black. You know, it just looked soulless. It just looked awful, like demonic, like you say, Rob. And but yeah, it seems that they have tested and had a look, and it's not just on Shetland. Obviously, the gannets have had black eyes all across seabird colonies in Britain, all the main 6 that were looked at. And I think in Bass Rock there was studies done, and it showed that those birds, actually the next year, I think, or later that year, or maybe the next year, those birds that had black eyes, you know, they weren't still suffering. So they had suffering from bird flu. They had it, previously had it, but had made full recovery. And now we're seeing these black-eyed birds, you know, some with full black eyes up on the cliffs, nesting and breeding with regular blue-eyed gannets, seemingly undeterred and healthy. So yeah, it's incredible, really.
That's good.
It's quite a story, and I think it's really something you notice, especially with doing these close-ups. So obviously we take folk to the cliffs for the kind of the panoramic views of the cliffs and the kind of bigger lens stuff. But like you say, Josh, you know, you're down to a really small lens when you're doing the diving gannets. You're literally hanging off the boat, and you've got birds like a couple of feet from you. You're getting, you know, splashed from them, and you can see their eyes really close up. And yeah, you can't get a more close-up experience of seabirds than that, can you? Really?
I think my dog was fascinated, wasn't she, when she came on the boat, and these gannets were coming so close. It was, you know, as you say, Josh, you know, they're literally sort of brushing you with their wings. As they're diving in, they are that close, and you do need a wide-angle lens if you're going to do that stuff. You know, and be prepared to get your camera wet, because they come in and they're big birds. They make a splash when they go in.
They do. They really do. Yeah. It's lovely to see them going at that speed as well, and just ricocheting off the wall, just, you know, like rockets around the boat. It's
and you know, it's so much fun. Even if the picture, I mean, because most of the pictures are just, you know, they're mediocre that I was taking, but it's just so much fun to do it. You know, it was just, you know, to get them diving in at various points, you know, sort of half in, half out, that sort of thing. It's if you get the timing right. And actually, after a while, you get your eye in, don't you? And because they're following the boat along, and you just know when they're going to dive. They do this sort of, there's a particular sort of
vocalization kind of, right?
Yeah. And then boom, they're in. So, you know, you're hitting the shutter like there's no tomorrow. And yeah, I said most of them are, you know, you're never going to use them, but it's a lovely memory of that time. You know, and there are all sorts of things you can do with them. I was doing high key, you know, with the black-eyed birds, you know, behind the boat. So it literally did look very, very demonic, because you know what you saw with the black eyes, really, you know, and the wingtips and that sort of thing. So there's so much scope there. But and I know, Josh, you really enjoyed this as well, was the black water at the base of the cliff. I think that was my favorite thing.
Yeah, the contrast is amazing. Yeah,
it's just unique. So
it's definitely my favorite bit of my own photography. I absolutely love it. That's all I ever really, when I get a chance to go out separately on the boat, I just want to get to the black water. I just want to see what's there, what's in it today. Because early in the season, it's all season as well with the black water. So it's just the shadow and the kind of dark water at the base of the Nos Cliffs. And in the early summer, you're getting all the gannets, well, even in the spring. So in a couple of weeks when we start the trips, there'll be gannets collecting nest material. And, you know, if it's a nice calm day, you're just watching them picking up bits of seaweed or feathers off the surface of the water,
or fishing
taking them up to the net, or fishing net.
Yes, when we went, yeah.
Huge chunks, wasn't there, that day?
Well, there were. I mean, I've got some amazing pictures of it. But what works so well there is I love somewhere where you can have high contrast. And because of course you've got the white plumage of the gannet, and then you've got this dark water. It just works so well. I looked at it and went, I just looked at you and went, oh my God.
They look like paintings, don't they, Rob? I mean, that's the first impression I get when you're shooting. It's like painterly, like it's stunning.
You know, and I know what I looked at the picture. I look at the pictures now and I go, oh, I know what I'd do if I went back. You know, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like I've been messing around, as you probably know, with slow shutter, and it's like, oh, I want to do more of that. Can you imagine that slow shutter stuff with the gannets at the base of the cliff? So you've got this, you know, this white bird and the dark water, and how cool that would be with all the stuff that's going on there, because they're literally bobbing around, aren't they? They're bobbing around on the water, and then they're taking off, and then they're collecting nesting materials. They're squabbling amongst each other. So there's loads of stuff going on all the time. And because you've got this boat with sides which are photographer friendly, if you like, you can actually hang over the side of the boat and get the camera at water level if you want, to get that lovely low perspective, which is a fantastic thing to be able to do.
That's the beauty. I love having the fact that the boat's so close to the water surface, so you don't have to really hang over very much at all. You're kind of virtually eye level with the birds, which I think makes them for real impact, and much nicer style. And it's lovely with the black water. You never know what you're going to get. You never know.
And the other thing I remember too on that shoot in the lower cliffs, I think, were they Muirs or Guillemots? It might have been Muirs. They have the white ring around the eye.
The Guillemot.
The bridal Guillemots. The bridal form of common Guillemot. Yeah.
Okay, got it. When they fly, getting them in that environment, because they're dark as opposed to the gannet, but the eye ring is white. And that looks so cool too, with the dark all around. I mean, it was, because they would fly off the cliffs. We would get them launching and flying low, and it was a really great experience. And so different from the underwater shoot. I mean, there's so many different things. One thing that sticks to my mind too, when it comes from a photography standpoint, which is so great about Shetland, you don't have to pack huge long lenses. I packed really light for that trip. I mean, I shot basically with a 24-105, a 100 to 500 millimeter zoom, and those were my two primary lenses. Every so often I'd play around with a specialty lens, and then the underwater stuff was with a fisheye. So you could shoot at wide angles, and my whole kit was in just a little backpack, which is, it's great. So many trips you pack for, you have to bring all this equipment, and it was a very light trip to pack for, and you can't beat that.
That's a really good thing, actually. You make a really good point, Josh. I mean, when people, if you wanted to go to Shetland, what would you recommend? I mean, personally, I know what I'd take. I'd take my 24 to 120. I've got now, so I have to remember I've changed my lenses. 24 to 120, and I'd take the 180 to 600.
Yeah, you got it covered.
And I think that, and I'd probably take the macro as well, but I think that would be it.
Yeah, I was thinking about the macro lens. But when I wound up doing, if you can get so close to puffins, gannets, you could pretty much almost get a macro shot. Like I was doing some shots with just the eye and the bill, with a closer crop in, and I mean, it's just.
You're probably better off doing that with something like a 24 to 120, though, aren't you? Because the depth of field thing with the macro is not going to be as good. So
that's right. Yeah.
And you can and they're big enough that you don't need that macro.
Because I was stopping down the F11, even F14 on some of those shots.
Yeah, so that's what I would say. But I mean, I know that it must have been so different when you went. That 2 weeks does make a lot of difference. So it is. There's a lot about timing. So you have to be a bit lucky too, because the weather can be unkind to you, can't it, on Shetland? Because it's remote.
The first time I was hit with rain coming up to my feet, it was coming sideways up. That was the first. But an umbrella wouldn't have worked in that situation.
No, you'd do Mary Poppins, wouldn't you, if you were holding onto an umbrella, I think.
Horizontal rain is certainly the way up here. If it happens, it happens horizontally normally.
So you do have to have a bit of luck. But, and then you went at a better time. I think you timed it better from a breeding seabird perspective. So you got the puffins with the sand eels in the bill and that sort of thing, did you, on Hermanus?
We did, but it's incredible. Well, actually, most of our eel shots were in Sunborough. In Hermanus, they were like just in groups. We didn't see a lot of feeding, so I'm not sure how successful that breeding season was at that point in time. No. But I have to say, when they come in with the eels, you have to be ready. They don't stand around with them. I mean, they're flying right to the hole.
Well, because they get mugged, don't they?
They do.
By herring gulls and skewers and stuff.
Skewers, and so you really have to find one. And that's kind of the fun of it. It's almost like a video game. We were standing there, and then we're like, which one has... Oh, this one has eels, and then you focus in, and they come in quick. It's a hard shoot. A lot of people think these puffin flight shots are easy to do, but when they're flying toward you that fast, and I mean, it's hard for the autofocus to keep up on that. You have to be.
It is, because you've generally got a busy background as well, haven't you? unless you're eye level with it, which you can be.
Yeah, it can be really frustrating when you've managed to get that. You can see a puffin coming in with sand hills, and you've locked on it, and then it suddenly literally
loses focus, and you go, no.
100 miles an hour.
Just as this bonksy comes in and smashes into it, and because I'll never forget that shot that Bryden got of that bonksy taking the puffin. It was gruesome, but oh man, what a shot that was! It was
that for Bird Photographer of the Year a couple years ago? That shot,
it was in Beat Mossy a few years ago.
It.
Yeah, that was gruesome. But that was that off Hermanus?
I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it was a Hermanus shot.
Should we talk about Hermanus and Unst and because Unst is what we've been talking about with Lerwick is on the main island, and Unst is the most northerly one.
Yeah,
it's the most northerly point in Britain, isn't it? And so you have to take a couple of car ferries, which it's not very far to drive, is it? But it takes a while because you've got to time the ferries, and if you haven't booked them, the people that book them have got priority, so you might miss out on the first run, and then you have to wait. So it's a bit of a faff, but it's well worth the effort.
It is. It takes a bit of planning. But if you're coming for a week or two to Shetland, you definitely don't want to miss out on going to Unst. It's a beautiful beautiful island. So it is the most northerly inhabited island. It used to be Muckleflugga, which is a small island with a lighthouse on it, just north of it.
Don't you just love that name, the Muckleflugga Lighthouse?
It sounds like a Harry Potter.
It is. Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that.
Is that the lighthouse that was inspired by Robert Louis Stevenson? The Treasure Island off of Hermanus. There's the lighthouse there. Is that what you're talking about, or is that's?
Could well be, actually.
It could be. I don't know if that's related. But
I think
they had like a whole thing about Robert Louis Stevenson when he wrote Treasure Island, and he based the map on Unst, actually, which kind of blew my mind. That was like one of my favorite books as a kid. So
that's pretty cool. Wow. Yeah, it was you that told me that, I think, before. Yeah. So, but as amazing as Nos is, Hermanus is equally impressive, isn't it? When you go there for the first time, I mean, this is what Shetland does to you. You can't get over just how amazing some of these sites are, and what you can't, there are things that you can't get across in photographs, and I think one of those things, well, A, it's the noise, and B, it's the smell. You can't get those two sensory areas across in a photograph. You have to be there. And when you put all those things together, this sort of visual stimulation, and then you've got the smells and and everything else going on. It just blows your senses, and it does take a while to sink in and realize what you're looking at. And if you remember, if you think about the pictures, I think probably the person that people would think of first when they think about puffins is Kev Morgans and all his amazing stuff. A lot of his stuff is taken at Hermanus, so there's dramatic cliffs and there's puffins standing on the edge with it, against the sunlight, and all that sort of stuff is mainly taken there. So it is a very, very dramatic place. You can get so close to puffins that you could stroke them, and then you are looking over, if you're brave enough, just vertical drops off cliff edges with paths literally right up to honestly, it gave me vertigo.
It's pretty scary, actually.
It is pretty scary, but you have to look over because there's the seabird colonies there, from that aerial almost perspective, because you're looking down on them, it's just something else to that you just have to experience. It's very, very difficult to describe.
Yeah, it's like a huge amphitheater, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're looking, from within it down, and you can't help but go to the edge and have a good look, because you just, I think it's just human nature. You've got to go and stand and look, but it's very different. So for puffin photography, obviously you have Sombra Head. It's it can be a bit limiting there, because it's a relatively small couple of colonies either side.
Yeah, and you're quite restricted as to where you can go, aren't you?
You are. You can get lucky, and you can certainly be more artistic, and it's definitely nicer in the evenings there. And with the right wind direction, they can, like the fulmars, they can hang on the wind a lot more, and you can get a lot of flight photography at Sombra. You've then got Faroe Isle, which arguably is the best place in Britain to photograph puffins, but it's very difficult quite often. Well, it has been certainly the last few years. It's a difficult place to get to, logistically, difficult place to stay. Obviously, that's going to change soon with the opening of the new bird observatory, which is happening this summer.
All right.
But if you haven't, if you're just coming to Shetland and not Faroe Isle, then you've got a taster of it at Sunborough. You've got it by boat to Noss with us, but nothing beats Hermanus for puffins really, because you can basically move around them. They often depend. I don't know if they were like that when you went there, Josh, but where you're literally sitting amongst them and they're walking around you.
One of the most memorable experiences, Rebecca, in my photography career, we walked up, and it's a long walk. It's about 40 minutes from where you park to get to the cliffs, and there's this little like gumball ledge, and there were puffins hanging there, and I immediately recognized it because, Rob, as you were saying, Kevin Morgan's, he's famous for taking wide angle shots of puffins off of this particular, I'm like, I know that place. So I crawled right up. I had a 14 millimeter lens, and they were within inches of me, and I was shooting not only the puffin wide angle, but this gorgeous landscape all around, and it was absolutely stunning. It blew my mind. I've never been in a situation like that. And speaking of senses, there's also a tactile sense. You become one with the sheep and the sheep droppings. I think
that's one way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very tactile also.
Yeah. Make sure you put covers on the car before you get back in.
Oh yeah. I think, yeah.
It's just that kind of place, isn't it, where you immerse yourself.
Yeah.
You get taken in. You lose yourself in seabirds, and you lose yourself in the puffins, and you forget. I mean, you forget where you're walking, your angles. You're just surrounded by.
And you've really got to stay on the island, I think, to fully appreciate that, because always in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I've got to get back. I can't miss the last ferry, But so you've always, I've always had that nagging at me when we were there, which actually it detracts from the whole experience when you've got that. So I think, as I said to you, I think the next time I come, I want to stay on the island for at least 2 or 3 days, because you don't then have that worry about.
Yeah, that's right. I think you need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a photographer, you need to, especially in the summer, because the evenings are so late. They're so late. The ferries are finished by the time it doesn't get dark really. Obviously, you've got it's the land of the midnight sun, so the simmer dim, and the sun barely touches the horizon before it's rising again, and the best opportunities are really late in the evening, sort of 9-10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be looking at your watch and rushing for a ferry and missing the golden hours, do you?
And that's the thing. At that time of the year, you've got so much daylight, so it doesn't really get fully dark.
No.
And I was so surprised when we were in the garden of the place we were staying. You think it's the middle of the day, and it's not, because it's 10 o'clock at night, but it's still light. And this hedgehog wandering around, and you're going, "What are you doing out in the daylight?" And you're thinking, "We haven't got any choice because it doesn't get dark."
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah. So Josh, you were shooting, you were saying actually before we came on and started recording, that thinking about the light, obviously the sun is very, very high in the sky very early in the day, and stays that way for the majority of the day, making it quite harsh at times, particularly if there's no cloud cover. And you and Kurum stayed up quite late. You're saying you sacrificed the mornings. I guess it's going to be very difficult to do both, because there's not a lot of sleep time in between.
Yeah.
So you were doing the evenings as opposed to the early mornings.
Yeah, what we found with the evening light, you can get front lit shots, you could do side light, but also you can get incredible silhouettes too. So you could position yourself, depending upon the angle, to get you could utilize all different forms of light. And it was great. Plus that walk, we preferred making the walk because, again, it's pretty long. I think it was like 45 minutes.
Yeah,
and it's an uphill
longer
hike.
than you think, isn't it? That
we preferred doing that when it was light out in the afternoon. So we would go up there in the evening versus doing it in the morning when it was dark. Plus, if we shot in the evening and the morning with the sun, as you were just saying, we'd only get like a couple hours of sleep. So we tried it for one day, and we're like, let's break this up. So and
I
we
think
didn't regret it
would.
because we had
I
5
think
days. That's a lot of shooting. Yeah.
yeah, I think it would be better in the evening as well, because when you
Mm.
because it's from the car park to the cliffs, it is about 40 minutes walking on this sort of boardwalk across what would you describe, moorland almost, isn't it?
Norland, yeah.
Yeah, where the great skewers should be breeding, weren't obviously the year that I went, because they've been affected so badly by bird flu. And when that's the place where they dive bomb you, isn't it? Once they're nesting on that,
It is.
that moorland area. Yeah.
The kind of main path to the cliffs at Hermanus
Yeah.
does go through. Well, it did, as you said. I mean, less so now, but there's still a few. You go right through a great skewer colony. So at the wrong time of year, yeah, you have to watch your back a bit.
And they're quite intimidating birds, because they're pretty big up front, and they've got a mean bill on them. So don't want to mess with them.
Yeah.
So they can, but I know that that certainly weren't in the numbers when we went there, obviously because of the effects of bird flu. But it is quite a long walk, and you have to be reasonably fit to do that. And I think if you were going to do it in the morning, you'd be waylaid by everything else you wanted to photograph on the way, because there's other things hanging around. So it makes sense to do it in the evening. But you definitely need to stay. That was the mistake I made. I couldn't shoot at the prime time, in those sort of lovely, in that lovely golden hour, if we got any sun, of course. But
and there's also
when you
sorry,
I was just going to say, even when you make it to the cliffs, you can turn left. I'm not sure what direction that is, and you can head toward the gannet colony, or you could turn right. But it's miles of shooting all along there. So even once you walk that 40-minute walk, you're not just in one spot shooting. You're still trekking miles either way. It's a good workout.
Yeah, it is, but it's well worth it. I mean, it's just you can't describe the experience until you've done it. It just is just one of those mind-blowing things that I only went there once, and you just with all these things, you can never get the best out of it the first time you visit anywhere. You have to go back again and again and again, I think, with these things. It's just an iterative process, isn't it? And it's well, you could spend a lifetime on Shetland, I think, and still not get the best out of it.
It's like we're just saying about Hermanus, which obviously is the main draw on Unst. It certainly is, and it certainly has, like Josh was just describing. Really, you've got so much opportunity there for maneuvering yourself in any position you want, facing whatever you want, whether you want silhouettes or you want to look down on a larger colony and try some sort of slow shutter stuff on the stacks of all the little birds looking like tiny ants below you. That's how far, you're talking about, again, nearly a 200 meter cliffs, looking down at them. But you can work with it. You can really work with the setup there. So there's endless opportunity to photograph the seabirds there. But of course, a place like Unst as well, there's so many other things to photograph in the summer as well, especially like late on in the evenings, things like obviously on Unst in particular, things like golden plover that breed there in the summer months. And you've got all the cotton grass swaying around, and you've got all the beautiful golden plovers standing in the sort of sun-soaked.
I've seen the shots, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And and you've got the dunlin, and you've got the snipe, and you've got the great skewers and Arctic skewers and things. So and if you're lucky, you can come across redneck phalaropes. So there's so much opportunity there for photography.
I mean, the thing is so many other things. Mergansers, divers, and oyster catcher, which are quite easy to. Well, you can't walk up to them, but you can get reasonably close. And all. I mean, we're just talking about effectively 3 places so far, but Shetland is so much more than that, isn't it? I mean, all the beautiful beaches that are virtually deserted.
Yeah, I think it's like 1,700 miles of coastline around Shetland.
Wow.
And the bird life you can find in those places, which nobody else is concentrating on. And I got some really nice stuff with oyster catcher, and
you did. I remember on Burrow you got some beautiful oyster catcher.
Some really nice sort of high key stuff, and honestly, you could just spend a lifetime there. I mean, there's so much opportunity, and it's so much more than just the seabird colonies.
It is, and it's lovely because you can lose yourself and not see somebody else all day either. Even in the middle of the summer, when Shetland's at its height as far as tourism is concerned, it takes just a few minutes to get off the beaten track and to not see another soul if that's what you want to do.
I mean, most of it's centered around Lerwick, isn't it? Really, in the harbour, because when those boats come in,
yeah,
people decant from the boats for a few hours. I mean, how far can you go?
Yeah, well, they go
back on the boat again. So
most go from Lerwick down to Sunborough to see Shetland ponies and puffins, and then they come back again to Lerwick.
The ponies! I forgot about the ponies. And by the way, they're I got close to a few, and they'll play around with you and bump you around. And Kerm and I ran to the car. We had one fairly aggressive pony, but they're absolutely gorgeous, and they're so much fun to shoot. But they can be a little wily too, and they're not shy. Some of them will come right up to you, and
yeah, some of the sheep. You have to be wary of these things of getting in the same field as the Shetland ponies. Yeah, and also the Texel sheep. No, the standard Shetland breed of sheep are absolutely fine, but the kind of the Texel sheep, they've got quite a temper on them. You'll be running for the car with those as well. We have in the past. Yeah,
because you've got a right to roam, haven't you, over Shetland? So you can go pretty much wherever you want.
We had them approach us right to the car. We just got out of the car and started photographing. I'm like, oh, look, they're coming in closer. Look how nice, and zooming in. And they came very close to the point where I'm like, okay,
There's a lot of them. Yeah.
yeah. They'll get around you pretty quickly. It's interesting. We were talking about like getting close. I was a little worried, to be honest, Rebecca, like even in more so in Hermanus, because there's no walls or anything else. Like when I was laying down, am I bothering the puffins? Am I getting too close? But I found they didn't seem to be disturbed at all. Like I would have backed up, and in some cases they would walk right up to me. They're very confiding there, to the point where I initially thought, well, if I'm going to lay here and they're only going to be a couple inches from me, am I bothering them? Am I in their space? But I found I didn't have any ethical concerns around it. I found they were pretty comfortable, and they walked all around. It was almost as if we weren't even there. I mean, I'm sure they're just used to people, but
I love that aspect to it. It makes it for a really it really heightens your experience when you're sat amongst birds and they don't have any fear of you or any concern. It's a really kind of harmonious situation, isn't it? I think they're puffins in particular. I think they really actually it's the same for a lot of seabirds and a lot of birds on Shetland generally. They're not used to seeing humans, and they don't see you as a potential threat, and it's a wonderful thing when it's like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
they call back to you too if you go, huh? I was kind of getting good at their vocalization for a while, and they would call back to me.
Did you find that you'd get more the later the afternoon got on? So I think that's probably where I went wrong, is we went too early in the day, so most of them are still out at sea because they weren't feeding young at that point. So there were a few around, but they're not in the numbers that you obviously had. And
it can still be quite hit and miss sometimes, even in the early summer. Even though they're all there, they're back on their breeding grounds. They can spend. It can be very weather dependent sometimes. It can be on the direction of the wind, on cloud cover, they can spend all day out at sea, and then early evenings generally onwards are the best time. It's quite sad sometimes because you get cruise ships in, maybe that you get a couple of thousand people head down to Sunborough Head hoping to see puffins in the summer, and one day you'll have 500 on the cliffs in front of you, and the next day there might be none, and it's just a bit of luck at that time of year, and then they're kind of back on the cruise ships by half past 3 in the afternoon, and then you wander down in the same evening, and suddenly there's hundreds again. They all come back in.
I think we just lucked out when we went to Hermanus. Really, I mean, there were puffins, but they're not as you were describing them, Josh. Not sort of walking around you. I mean, I got pretty close, and I got some nice. Well, you remember the one just in the sea of green, the little head in the sea of green. I just managed to get in front of the little ridge in front of me, and then behind the puffin was out of focus grass as well. I just managed to isolate its head just in this sort of blurry out of focus green. It was really nice. But yeah, other than that, I didn't manage to do too much with them there. But I just think that's the thing. You need a decent amount of time, and as I said, you need to go back more than once. You need repeated visits to get the best out of it, which is obviously what Kurum and you did. I mean, how many
5 or
evenings
6
did you
nights
spend
in a
there?
row, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is the way to do it. And I mean, I was torn between sort of concentrating on one or two things or just trying to run around and do everything. And that's always been my problem. I mean, when you've got a week just really isn't enough. You need two if you
agree.
if you really want to do it justice, I think. And yeah, get used to the conditions and get used to what you're shooting and get the most out of it.
Yeah. We did 3 trips on the Nosboat alone. So we did 3 Nosboat trips, Sunburr Head. So we did the first week down on the main, I call it the main island, Lerwick. And then we went up to Unst for the second week in Hermanus. And I have to put a plug in. If you're going to Unst, you have to stop at Frankie's and get the fish and chips with panko. Oh my God, is that so good? I wish I had it right now. A little malt vinegar. It was dynamite.
when you head up to the islands, so you go from Lerwick to Toft to get the ferry to Yell, and it's en route there. There's a kind of hamlet area called Bray, and it's there that Frankie's. It's right next to the road, so you can't miss it. It's
and
so every
good.
time every time we go that direction, we can't not go in it. If we're going past it, we have to eat it. It's very good. It is very good.
Well, it
was number one in Britain, of course, a few years ago.
And then you go to anywhere in Lerwick. Really, that's such a beautiful little town. There's loads of good eating places, and the facilities there are really really good. But
they have got good facilities here. Really have, right across, really. And we should mention about getting to Unst, how you do need to kind of plan in advance, and you can phone up and book the ferries to make sure you get the connections right, and you do want to book in advance. But they are every day. They run on schedule. They're very good and very quick, and you need to get to Toft, and then it's about a 15-minute ferry ride over to Yell, the island of Yell, and then you drive right across the length of Yell to get the ferry from
it's a great drive. It's fantastic. I loved it. Yeah,
it's a great little trip. And even when people are only here for a few days and they're desperate to kind of just have a little look, and go explore a bit further than just north. Obviously, there's a huge difference, certainly in habitat between South Mainland Shetland and North Mainland Shetland. So even that's nice to just see that kind of
it's quite marked, actually, isn't it? Yeah.
Very marked contrast with it's obviously a lot more people and a lot more sort of sheep grazing and kind of obvious sort of accessible coast, I guess, and beaches and things in the South Mainland. And then you head in to the north, and you get the steeper, higher cliffs. You get a lot more undisturbed moorland habitat. You get mountain hares as well, of course. We get mountain hares here in the north, and then but I always say try and get over to Unst just for the day, just so you could even just experience the ferries. It takes about 2 hours if you do it kind of if you get the timings right over to Unst, and if just to drive around for the day and then come back again. You get a flavour of the islands that way.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, definitely. If you're going to go to Shetland, do not miss out on Unst, and don't even even if it's a flying visit like it was for me, really. Hermanus. You just have to go to Hermanus. I mean, if you are interested in birds and wildlife in general, if you don't go to Hermanus,
it's one of the prettiest places I've ever seen.
There's no hope for you.
Yeah, but if you stay on Unst, you have to plan in terms of food. We've learned this. There's like really 2 places there's a gas station, petrol station that has groceries. That's where we got our groceries, and then there's a tea shop that's opened. I don't know, 4 or 5 hours a day. Maybe it's a little longer. And they have great scones and tea and cake and everything else. But you have to be smart about what food you have to. We cooked our own dinners each night in the place that we stayed. But you have to be, because there's not a lot of options in terms of restaurants and whatnot. So you have to make sure you're planned ahead for food.
I mean, self-catering's the way to go, isn't it? I mean, particularly if you're out, and then you can just suit yourself and feed yourself when you need to.
I mean, I feel like that even. I mean, a couple of things. I mean, I feel like that even though I live here, that you have to stay there. You have to. So Phil and I have just bought a place on Unst, a little self-catering place, which is going to be up and running later this year, and that is in Bolter Sound, a stone's throw from Hermaness, and that's specifically. Well, we're going to be renting it out, but part of the year, and then enjoying it for the rest. And the thing I'm looking forward to the most out of having a little boat hold on Unst is the fact that I can just go and enjoy the wildlife and the evening opportunities up at Hermaness, and then just come back and know that you've got a bed and you don't have to sort of look at your watch and rush to a ferry. And unfortunately, there's some very good self-catering places on Unst, and if you look in advance enough, you can book somewhere nice, and there's no problem. It's still limited up there, but they exist. But unfortunately, Josh, the tea rooms have closed down now. The Victoria's tea rooms.
Oh, I love that place.
Yeah, that just came out a few maybe a month or so
He
ago.
says, "I'm never going back again now."
Oh,
Yeah. So they've shut. They're actually going to be having a kind of a mobile coffee unit that they're going to have in the Hermaness car park, though.
okay.
You can at least have some caffeine fix and maybe a scone or something if they're doing that before you go up.
The scones were excellent. They knew me by name there after a couple, so we enjoyed it. And they have really good soup too. And they even had gelato, actually. So it was quite good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, they know more. So, and you mentioned the other place, and that's where we go to, which is Final Checkout, it's called, which is like you say, it's the gas station, the shop. It's quite a multitude of things, I think.
That's it. Final Checkout. It's a bit of an ominous name, isn't it? Right.
Like the final countdown, isn't it? It's like,
final destination.
Sort of 80s hair. And
yeah. But they're very well stocked for food. So if you've got a self-catering place, there is no, you don't need to take everything with you over there. You can buy there because they do have a big range of food. You're not going to go hungry over there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you also run a B&B, don't you, in Lerwick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so people know. So you've got
Orphan House bed and breakfast.
Yeah, you got that facility, you've got the boat, and now you've got this place on Unst. It's just perfect.
Yeah. I'm filling myself up, my time up when I should be out taking photographs.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, you do make a good point, and I'm not going to ramble on for ages because I realise we've been going for quite a while. Because it's just like when the three of us get together, we just like talking about Shetland, and it's just we can't stop ourselves. But I guess we're going to have to wrap it up. But before we do, I just thought just a quick note on accommodation. You make a very good point about. There is limited accommodation to rent, particularly on places like Unst. Mm-hmm. If you, like me, have a dog, you're going to be even more limited. Jen and I found it really, really difficult to find somewhere that would accept a dog. And I think on Unst, it was almost impossible. On the mainland, we never have any trouble, but Shetland is slightly different for that. So that is something to bear in mind. And probably you do need to plan a couple of years in advance, I would say. Certainly a good 18 months, to get the right sort of places. So it's not something you can, you could do it at a drop of a hat, I guess, but it does take a bit of planning. It does take a bit of planning. So
it does. You really do need to kind of plan a year ahead. I think people can be really shocked where, they may be planning a trip now for the summer or late summer, and then they find that they can't get accommodation, they can't get the ferry. It is limited. There is a capacity really that exists both in terms of the transport to get here and the accommodation when you get here. You need to plan ahead really.
That's the other thing to mention. If you're going to book the ferry and you want a decent cabin and stuff, then you need to be booking early in the year, don't you? Sort of January time for the summer. Otherwise it gets just sold out. So
I would imagine the NOS boat books up pretty quickly, right, Rebecca, in terms of, how backed up are you in terms of bookings on the boat?
It does book up. There's a huge amount of advanced bookings. So all through the winter, it generally tends to start around Christmas time and build up from then for the next summer for the bookings, especially wildlife tour groups that book. Will book the boat out. So there's a lot. 95% of the wildlife groups that come to Shetland use our boat, and they book 6 months to 8 months in advance to do that. So they book the entire boat. So if you're very restricted in when you can come on the boat, if you've only got a day, then it could be that you look and we're full, we're already for that day. So we always say, if you're coming up to Shetland for a week or two, to try and book a boat tour with us nearer the beginning of your trip, so that if we can't fit you in, or if the weather's not playing ball, that we can try and fit you in and reschedule you in another part of your trip, so you don't actually miss out completely. But even the boat, there's certainly the boat trips, they do book out in advance, so you can book it up to a year ahead with us as well. And the same for most accommodation too. It's incredible to have to think that far ahead, but I think with these little islands, they do reach capacity quickly.
On that note, why don't you just shout out to people how they can get hold of you, and how they can arrange your booking.
Yeah.
It's getting too late at night. How they can arrange a booking on the boat or the accommodation or any of that.
Sure. So the main port of call really is to go to our website, which is Shetland Seabird Tours and .com. And on there you will find all our scheduled tours and availability on a very good check front system that we have, which is a live booking system. It's actually a Canadian company that run that. And we have also on the homepage, in the top along the frieze, you'll see there's Orkney House bed and breakfast, which we run from our family home here in Lerwick. And if you go through that, you can see availability, of which I don't think there is any availability this year now at all. But for next year, if you're planning on coming to Shetland, and also the new place, which is called Shetland House, Solon after the northern gannet, which is which is the Shetland term for gannet. So that's available from May onwards this year, and certainly our main year for that will be next year for booking for Unst. So please have a look.
People wanted to find you personally on Instagram and have a look at some of the amazing stuff you've been taking in Shetland.
Well, I have my RebeccaNason.com website, and on Instagram, which is my favoured social media platform, it's Puffin Passion. So please have a look. I run two actually. It's Shetland Seabird Tours and Puffin Passion on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll put links to all of that sort of stuff in the show notes, so people can get to you from there. But I could have gone on and talked about this. Well, we have talked about it pretty much all night. But I could go on and on and on. But maybe we should have done 2 episodes on Shetland. I think we could have filled it back for sure.
Definitely.
Rebecca, thanks so much for coming on and said it's great to finally got together and had a good chat about Shetland, and hopefully we've inspired people who haven't been to go and visit, because it's one of those must go places if you are into birds and wildlife. It's a bucket list thing. You have to go. There's no two ways about it. Put it on your list. Make sure you go and experience it. You won't be disappointed. It is an amazing place. So, thank you so much for coming on, and
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Reminding me how good it was and how much I want to go back, which I do, and we have been talking about it. So, and hopefully, Josh, this time we'll do it the same week and get everybody together, because I know Georgina's been talking about it as well, and she really wants to go, and I think Michael Sneddick wanted to go, and anyway, so there's a whole bunch of us who want to come over. So
we'd have a blast. That would be a
we would. We'd have really good fun. So brilliant. Okay, well, I hope everybody found that inspiring. And so once again, thanks to Rebecca for coming on and sharing all the knowledge. And nice to see you again, Josh. And thanks for sharing your memories of Shetland. And I mean, what's next for everybody? Rebecca, what are you up to? Presumably just preparing for the season ahead.
Yeah, preparing for the season. It opens up in mid-April with the boat, so we'll all go for the boat season, and the bed and breakfast really is full from the beginning of April as well. So from April, it's all kind of all cylinders are firing basically.
Yeah,
I'm trying
October.
to also finish till October.
Until October.
That's right. And in between times, trying to finish the Faroe bird book that we're working on, which will be out this summer. So we've got to finish that as well.
So you got your hands full. Josh, any plans in the coming weeks?
Just mostly local shooting. The Osprey are back. St. Patty's Day. That's normally when they come back over here. So first Osprey have been arriving. Some songbirds are back. Pine warblers, Louisiana water thrush, and I saw a snowy egret. Green herons will be coming back. So the big changeover is happening. We still have some ducks hanging around, some buffleheads and a few things, but yeah, I'll be out shooting a lot in the next couple of weeks, especially in April and May. That's when things.
Yeah, me too. I'm just going to get out and about and enjoy the spring and enjoy this sort of transition and everything waking up, because I'm just being reminded. In fact, it's been so dry and cold here for the last few weeks. We haven't had to worry about the toads, but the weather's broken tonight and we've had mild temperatures and rain. And I've been having all these messages pinging on my phone from the local toad patrol group who've been out collecting all these things, going, no, it's really busy. So I think we're wet again tomorrow. So that will probably be my next thing. And actually this year, I keep saying it every year, I want to get some decent pictures of them at, in the evening and that sort of migration thing. So I'm going to have a go at that hopefully as well tomorrow night. So we'll see.
Cool.
So anyway, cool. Thanks very much again. And thanks everybody for listening. I hope you've enjoyed that. And we will see you all again next time. You have been listening to the Wildlife Photography Podcast. If you have enjoyed the content, then please help us to spread the word by sharing a link on your social media platforms, giving us a like, and leaving us a comment. See you all again next time.